Well, I don't know if you can appreciate this, but this is like the 23rd or 24th. It's of June 2014. This is I think yesterday was the summer solstice, longest sunlight day. But I'm working on my Palmarized hives that I copied after Michael Palmer. Used to do this years ago and forgot about it. Back when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, and I think he's absolutely right. You can see here's the top super. This is hive number 4, and it goes to this box right here. And you notice the two boxes on top are different colors to kind of help me keep them straight. Plus they have a number right here that I just put on in pencil. Plus there's also a number on the lid, which is right there. Shows me which lid goes to what. So I kind of keep them straight. This one here is just stuffed with bees. They've started putting honey in this one right here, and there is a honey flow on. My guess is, since you're looking at the yard and seeing all the clover here, and there's clover everywhere, that's probably what it is, most likely. And it is June, and we haven't had any swarms. I did do a trap out in a bee tree, which was rather interesting, and that's on YouTube, or will be shortly. So I'm going to just take this frame out of here and see what's cooking. I'll just leave the camera sitting here and take it out and give them a little smoke just to keep them from getting too antsy. See a lot of new wax on this frame here. I'm making a video. Oh my goodness, this is just solid honey. There is no brood. This hive was a dead out following a cup or two of bees that survived in a package that was sent, and they corrected. They sent another one. Queen was not accepted, and of course under the circumstances it probably wouldn't have mattered much, but this hive I made kind of a combination, puts a bunch of frames of bees and stuff in here and some eggs, hoping they would make a queen. I'm not sure whether they have, but we're about to find out whether we have any brood. Now, this will be kind of interesting for you. They have, sorry for all the turning around, but this is one of the reasons why when you take cells out, particularly this one where you were looking for a queen, there's a beautiful example of a new queen cell that they have raised, and they are meticulously caring for it. So this is a question of not messing with a hive that has struggled from the get-go. The one in front of it, this other side, the green side, is probably much better off. We'll find out soon, because we're going to do this and record all this. This is a gorgeous queen cell. I don't see any others, and I don't need to look for any others. And I'm happy to see this. It's probably not too far from hatching out, because I know when I worked on this hive before. So I'm going to put this back very careful in an attempt not to squash anything, and just leave this side of the hive alone. There's a lot of honey in this hive, a lot of honey, and I expect we'll find some pollen elsewhere. So this is hive number 4, Palmarized. That's with a P. We're going to stop this recording now and close this up and go to the next one. Well, that shut off, so I had to restart it, and this is a continuation of NUCS 3 Palmarized. And this is the second frame from the outside, and it is full of brood. And this is the second story, which means I've got brood in the bottom and brood in the top, but I'll check that to make sure. And here's the other side of that frame, okay? Beautiful brood pattern, lots of honey. And here's the same thing going on here, all kinds of brood. So this happens to be a great frame of brood to borrow. But I'm going to do something different today. I'm going to borrow 10 eggs or larvae that are at least no older than 2 days old, and I am going to do a little 10-cell grafting and put it in a hive that has no queen, so that they can raise these babies for me, and then I'll have 10 new queens. So there, this is a great little nook. It really needs another super. But what's interesting with this double concept here, because this bottom deep that you see here has also a divider in it. So these are two individual hives stacked together. Look it up under Michael Palmer Self-Sustainable Apiary. Great hour and 15-minute video. But anyways, there is definitely something to this narrow concept. I think the bees are happier. I think it's more like a tree. I think there's a great generation of good temperature in these things, not only in the summertime but particularly in the wintertime, because then you end up with two walls in the middle here, because each box is separate, so you have better insulation. You know, you could go on and on and on, but what I'm seeing with this concept is what, like he's showing, that, you know, the queens even like it better. Then that's pretty important. So I'm kind of thrilled to rediscover what I used to do, but in a slightly different way. So I'm going to go through this hive, and if I see anything that's more interesting, I'll add it to this. Okay? Okay, so this is the bottom of hive number 3, which I just showed you in the previous 2 clips, what kind of shape they were in and how stuffed they were. This hive actually needs to be supered, but I think rather than do that, I have a hive on the end of these that's just been faltering horribly. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal some frames and the brood that goes with it, and I'm going to start that hive over there using this, and give this hive another 2 or 3 frames for the queen to lay in, because she's running out of room because of the honey flow. And that's exactly where this concept comes in and really helps you with a hive that's struggling. So I'm going to cut this off now, and if there's anything more to talk about, I'll let you see, but I'm going to check to see what the brood situation is in this hive. Again, now this is a continuation report on hive 3, Palmarized Nook. This is the bottom story, and I just checked a frame in it, and it's this whole box is that at least these 3 frames here, the 3 frames toward the center of the Palmarized unit, are all brood on both sides in a typical fashion, with the arc of honey and the pollen below that, and then some brood below that in a great pattern. This is a good queen. She's laying greatly. This particular frame here, the outside frame, is their solid honey slash pollen, with more honey than pollen. This is a very crowded hive. I did not see any swarm cells, which is interesting, because this is June, and it's not that they can't swarm, but you know, we're having a difficult time with bee populations and hives because of the CCD and the morons at Bayer and Monsanto and the like that are trying to tell the beekeepers that have been at it for like more years than they've been in business that chemicals really don't bother bees because they're all friendly. We know that. But if you want to see what chemicals really do, watch the movie More Than Honey. Okay, it's available on YouTube, I think, and if not, look it up. You can get it. And there are some clips in there that kind of show you what spray in the almond orchards, which is the #1 use of hives in the United States. 1.5 to 1.7 million hives go there every year. They didn't have enough this year for obvious reasons. And they reported in some places a 40% killed because some moron mixed a couple of batches of insecticide or fungicide spray, and it had a symbiotic type of response in that it multiplied its effectiveness, or its toxicity, if you will, and they had a horrible instant kill, and this was documented. It's part of the literature now. And there was a lot of beekeepers that were concerned, to say the least. But you know, these beekeepers are pretty loose on how they take care of their bees in the orchards that they ship them to. And I can think of one in particular who's just sits in his truck and says, "Money, money, money." The smell of money, you know, when he hears all these bees in the orchard. In that same movie, these morons are spraying the hives and the bloom, you know, while the hives are still there, and then telling you it has no effect on the bees, while the bees are falling off the bloom and dying, you know. I mean, it's interesting, the kind of crap that they try to sell you. I get really irritated with nonsense and lies. I'm not saying that they are totally responsible, and that's the only problem that bees have. But let's get realistic. These are neurotoxins that we're producing now, NUCS. Some of these things have a half-life of 47 years. You know, that's a long time, and then at 47 years they're still half toxic. I mean, they haven't gone away yet, so how long do they really last, you know? And we keep putting them on every year. So that's my 2 cents worth, and if you don't like it, that's okay, but it's my opinion, okay? So this is a nice hive, and it's kind of in a sheltered area where I don't have to. The surrounding area in a 3 to 5 mile radius doesn't have too much of that stuff, hopefully. But it's a nice, healthy looking hive, and there have been some hives that I have posted close to some areas where these things are used that don't look anything like this. This hive has no beetles that I'm aware of, I've seen any evidence of. It has no varroa to date, or seemingly it hasn't. I haven't seen any evidence of it. That's all I'm going to do with this hive, but I'm going to probably use this to get my my eggs from. You might as well take it from a hive that's or larvae to do the queen cells, because you might as well take it from a hive that's got a great queen, and this has a great queen. So I'm going to stop the video now, and we'll go to the next hive, which is not a Palmarized hive, but I do have another one down the line to look at again. So I'm signing off on Palmarized hives number 3 and 4. So you see the little stool, I just sit on that while I'm working these hives because it makes it so much more relaxing. Plus I'm getting on in years, and it's a lot easier, and it's supposed to be 90 degrees today, so I think it's about 88 now. It's hot and it's dank. Humidity is out of reach. We've had rain this year when we had 9/100 of an inch in 91 days last year, and a drought the year before. So I'm thankful for the rain, and I'm not complaining. The good Lord knows best anyways. We had a great honey flow last year, even with the drought, which was, again, amazing, but we also had, I had an 11 hive kill out of 14 hives due to the intense cold more than anything. I had honey in almost all but 2 or 3 of those hives, and it was just so stinking cold that they couldn't move or break the cluster to eat the honey that was in very close proximity. And you see that. Another reason to try the concept of the palmarized hive, because I think you might have better luck, and I'm going to try that this year. I'm going to go into winter, I hope, with at least 4 of these babies, and that'll give me 8 backup hives. And I am starting in late June and early July, mid-July maybe even to the last of July, to make enough queens to make sure that most of these boxes will get a great working queen with good brood pattern before they go into the winter. And that should also help to get them some stores. I probably will not take too much honey off. And I'm going to go into this hive right now. And this is the, I mentioned earlier on, I think it was NUCS number 4 was a dead out. It died in transit. It was strapped to another one that did just fine. But this hive here is a replacement hive for the one that died. And I'm going to show you what's in here. I always put my lid on the ground upside down. Then if you take your stuff off your hive, you can just sit it on that. It acts kind of as a perch. Now I'm doing this one-handed, so bear with me. We'll just crack this hive just a tad. We got lots of propolis. Get a nice warm day, so it kind of stretches like chewing gum. And if we're relatively quiet here, we should... Well, looky there. What do you think you see? Isn't that amazing? Look at that honey just dripping from the inner cover. Okay, then we're going to set this over here against the palmarized hives. Okay. And really, what we're going to try and do here is just take a look to make sure that we have an active queen with decent brood pattern. Because it's been about 3 weeks, okay? So she should be laying and everything should be fine. I'm just going to set the camera up here on this other palmarized hive. Pardon the movement. And I might just continue to talk, and this may not be published because this is more actually for my record. But if I publish it, you'll get to see it. Put a little smoke on here just to clear the top bars more than anything. And I try not to, when I'm sitting on this stool, not to sit directly in front of the hive, because we've got some busy traffic today. Most of the comb in here is drawn out. Some of the frames were not, so I'm going to just pull one to see what it is. So this is one that wasn't, well, I guess it was drawn out on one side. And as you can see, I'm just letting the camera sit where it is, and I'm going to hope that you can see something with it because the lens is pointing toward it. This has got a great big bunch of all over. There was a brood pattern probably from last year in the brood chamber, but this is from the brood chamber. But interestingly enough, they haven't filled up this side over here. They haven't drawn it out yet. I think what I'll do is I'll turn it around in the hive and face it. Okay, we're recording again, and this is in case it stopped and I didn't know it, but this is the replacement for the number 4 palmarized hive, which was a dead out. And I've looked at these frames that are the first 4 going that way from the outside, left to right, and they're basically being filled slowly with nectar. This is a frame of brood, and it's got all kinds of brood that hasn't even been capped yet. I mean, it is loaded, and look at the other side. I mean, that is astounding. Solid brood, and I'm looking down in here again. I see no evidence of cells on the bottom. That might be a swarm cell kind of situation, but it is astounding. There's all kinds of wonderful brood in these. This is the second story on Palmarized NUCS number 7. and you can see some newly drawn wax there, and it looks like they're already into the second story. Said all this stuff before, but it evidently didn't. I didn't have it on record, but so we'll pull this up and take a look, and I'll be back in a second. So what we had in the top frame was all the cells cleaned out in all the frames, and the two center frames were loaded with honey, and the others were starting to get loaded. So there's definitely a honey flow on. My guess probably clover. It's all over the place. Now this is the bottom of the same hive. This is what would be originally your normal deep, but this is a narrow deep. There's 4 frames, as you can see. And I'm going to check to see if I have any brood, because this hive didn't have a queen at one time, or at least I couldn't find her. So I'm going to stop the video until I take a look. So this is the frame, first frame, which is there's 2 frames in the middle since it's a 4-framer. This is the first frame I pulled out, and guess what? It's wall to wall, with the exception of this little corner and a narrow band of honey. It's wall-to-wall brood. And there's another frame in there. I can get a shot at it. Maybe you can see this one here. It's all brood. I haven't looked at the other, but I don't think there's any need. This hive, again, like the other one in the Palmarized, is doing so marvelous. I am really impressed with this concept. I think it keeps everything cozier, and they don't have to spend so much time and hours and whatever on tending to the brood, you know, when the weather is this warm. You know, the ambient temperature of a normal hive is somewhere around 93 degrees. That's what they like to keep it at. So imagine it's 90 today, or will be shortly, and it's in a closed box, and there's really only an opening for the landing board, and it's not very big. I mean, I can show you the opening. Here's the opening. And I haven't seen them bearded outside, so that's not an issue. But it isn't. What it is an issue is I got a lot of frames of brood. I'm going to have to yank out of these, making sure I don't get the queen, and put it in some of my weaker hives, because the queen is not going to have any place to lay, because they keep loading the upper story with honey, which means there's a honey flow on. That's okay too, because we're going to need the honey come fall. But I am really happy with what I see with these boxes. I mean, I think this guy has happened over onto something I used to do, forgot about, and hey, I'm glad to have him remind me. It's not hard to do either. I modified them, and took about a day to do 4 of these with the boxes and all. But I'm really happy. So what you're looking at is Palmarized NUCS number 8 off of this stack here. I'll show you the other side. My wife is looking at it because she's my right-hand gal. And look at all the nice white wax here on they've drawn. I've already pulled some of those up. That's all honey in this box here. So on some of these Palmarized, I'm going to have to unload some of the honey and just put it in a deep. When I have a full deep, then I can extract it. But I pulled it just to see if the bottom, because there's no brood in that top, it's all honey, to see if this area here, which is the bottom brood chamber, to see if it has brood. My guess is that it does, because the bees are too content. But it's always nice to check and make sure that you have a good laying queen. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'll be back in a second. It is so nice to be absolutely charmed, if not amazed, by the work of a great queen. Look at the arc in that. You know, you got the honey here, and I go over there, there's an arc of honey over there, some pollen in the narrow band, and wall-to-wall brood, and what isn't filled has got new eggs and larvae in it. If you look down in here in the crack, there's another frame of brood. So this thing, I'm looking to the outside frame has got honey in it. So the 3 inside frames in these Palmarized NUCS all have brood because it's nice and warm. Outside one is the least warm, so they put their honey there as well as the top. Oh, I love these things. I'm making some more. I'm sending off on this one for now. Well, this is my wife's garden hive. There's the roof upside down, and there's the inside cover. And looky here. I can look in this super here, which is a medium, and there's only 2 of them, and there's not hardly a bee inside. That's what you call a not so good condition, but this hive here has not done good from the get-go. And this super that I'm taking off actually has some honey. It's left over from last year, and probably got about 20 pounds of honey in it. So there you see the total number of bees in this hive. There's probably not a teacup of bees in here. Maybe a half teacup. Let's just see what's going on in here. Well, the issue is you don't have enough bees to cover the brood, for one thing. You got punctured caps. Originally this just had a little baby try to sting me, and this is more characteristic. I shouldn't say little baby, she's a big baby, because I don't think this spoiled thing has been producing any brood. Oh, there is there's no queen around, so they can't even keep up with what they have in there. So we'll consider this hive dead, basically. It needs to be redone, and it will be. And it will be redone by the awesome benefits of the Palmarized hive. I might just go to Palmarized hive and forget this nonsense. Because you see how that's designed with the 2 boxes here. You can put a queen excluder on the top of these things, and then a full deep or even a medium, and just use it as you would any, and you'll have 2 queens and their workers working up there, mixing together, and of course the queens can't get up without having any problems, which is another benefit. You get the workforce of 2 NUCS, or 1 solid hive, if you will, because it's doubled. It's a solid, basically an 8-framer like this. So this is a classic example of something seriously gone wrong. There's some cells initially that look like chalk brood. There's no foul odor. I've put a toothpick in some of those cells and twisted it, so there's no foul brood of any kind that I can detect, so that's not an issue. So I'll leave them as they are, and I'll redo them in the not too distant future, because what's gone is gone. There's some field bees out there, so I think there's about maybe a half teacup if you count all the field bees, and at the very most 1 teacup full of bees. That's not even 3,000 bees if you're lucky. But we'll put this back together. That's a video recording for this hive, which is kind of a disappointment. So it is hotter than a hoot out here, and this is my 7th hive. This is on the deck, and this was a 3-pound package with a queen that I started this year, and it started out really slow, and then I compressed it and gave it only enough room to barely operate, kind of thinking that maybe if I did it like the Palmarized and gave it minimum amount of space, it would do better. So I gave it 1 medium. It had a deep. Changed everything. Took the deep off, and now it has 3 mediums. So we're going to take it apart and see what's cooking inside. I think it's doing much better than it was about 2 weeks ago. This hive on the deck that I was just talking about has a rather interesting device that lets you look in at the top. There's a plexiglass bottom to it, and there's a room for 3 feeders. I've got one of them covered with that thing so the bees don't come out with a bottle missing. And when these start to fill up like these are now, you start to see bees filling up the gaps between the frames. When you look down through that 3/8 inch gap, you see new wax being formed. So I know there's a honey flow on, and this hive has been relatively passive and in good spirits. So there's a cover. So I'm going to go and drop the hive tool. That'll make them happy. I'm going to open up, take this cover off so I can get to the actual super, and I'm going to put this on the ground. But to do that, I'm going to turn this off and get to the next section here. So we're recording again, and I took that top super that we just saw off, and I looked underneath, and that medium super is, we got 3 mediums here, is just filled wall to wall with brood. Phenomenal laying pattern. So things are looking really great, with the exception of this one hive. Everything is going according to Hoyle here. So when I redo the garden hive there, I'll have that's 6 phenomenal hives right now, and we'll make it 7 when we borrow from the frames from the Palmarized hive and add a new queen. So I'm really pleased with my backyard hives. That's the end of this video recording, mainly for my notebook I keep so I can keep them straight. This was a 3-pound package, which I might have mentioned, with a new queen, which was ordered from the same place the others were, which was H&R Apiary. They have 2 very nice ladies that answer the phone, and this package was around I think 70-something shipped. So their prices are decent too. I was initially a little bit disturbed with some of their queens, but they sent me 2 new queens and replaced 2 that didn't do what they were supposed to, and I was very happy with that. So they're good people to work with. I have changed my opinion as of now, at least. I have 1, 2, 3 other apiaries outlying, and I have gone from 3 hives starting this year out of winter to 15. So this is the end of this video, other than to say a little bit about this little frame here, which is what I'm going to use to make my queens. And if you know anything about queen rearing, you'll recognize it. So I'm going to only do 10. That'll be more than I need, but that's all I need. So this is G. Wooster signing off.